And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. It's brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. And, of course, big screens, big bets. Game day hits different at Ocean. Tonight's game day, you got Phillies baseball, you got Knicks and Spurs, NBA Finals Game 4. Check them out at the Fanatic Sportsbook with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sportsbook action you want. Geoff Mosher is back for Football at 4, and, of course, the Eagles' final day on the field. And, Geoff Mosher, we figured out that last year the Eagles were back on the field for training camp July 22nd. So that would be a little over a month from now that there'll be no Birds, but July 22nd will be here before you know it.
Oh, it will be, but I don't like you reminding me of that. You know that. My annual reminder to let me enjoy my summer.
July 22nd, all right, I saw this over at ESPN.com today, and I definitely wanted to get your take on it. They had the rankings of the best personnel groups. I don't know if you caught this or not, but they ranked the Eagles 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers as one to watch in 2026. And now that would kind of indicate that Eli Stowers, the tight end, might be a big part of this offense that maybe we, don't, envision all that much. But what do you make of their 12 personnel grouping? Is that a way that we could see them line up a lot this year?
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about being a staple of the kind of offense that Sean Mannion's going to bring. I mean, his influences are Sean McVay. He's coached, or who he played for. He's coached under Matt LaFleur. I mean, these are guys who came up through the Shanahan Kubiak school, and what that is putting 2 tight ends on the field more so than what the league average is. And the Eagles were already above the league average in 12 personnel, but now they're going to be even more. And as opposed to last year where your number 2 was Grant Calcaterra and he's on the line of scrimmage and being asked to block guys that he shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to see that. This year, they've got a guy like Johnny Munt who can block. We'll see with Eli Stowers will be a pass catching. He'll be an F tight end who gets flexed out a lot. I don't think you'll see him in line that much unless he's well ahead of the game in terms of blocking. But there's Dallas Goedert, who is your vintage Y. But it's really more about the backbone and the identity of what the Eagles want to do, especially in the run game, by having 2 tight ends out there in the run game. And then when you want to play action pass, it actually gives you a max protect look right from the start, because you're really passing out of a running look. And then your tight ends can release from there.
It's interesting because if you heard Lane Johnson talk the other day, he talked about the new, offensive line coach and possibly getting some more help this year. Sounded like something that he was, kind of intrigued by, getting some help from the guard, because essentially the Eagles have always let him out there on an island just saying, we don't need to give you help one-on-one. So how, the offensive line's assignments are about to change, it seems like, as well.
Yeah, so let me sort of try to help everybody in layman's terms understand what Lane was talking about. If it's 3rd and 7 and Jalen Hurts takes a 7-step drop and there's 5 offensive linemen out there as usual and maybe a tight end who's probably going to be a pass catcher in that regard, you're not going to see Lane Johnson get help on the edge. What he's basically referring to is sort of what I was just talking about with play action, when you've got these larger surfaces of 5 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends out there creating a 7-man offensive line. And then a play that might be under center and start off looking like a run, but as a play action pass is going to start off looking like the tight end on the play side blocking the edge defender. And then the right tackle Lane Johnson and the right guard Tyler Steen putting a combo block on the 3 technique. But because it's going to turn into a pass, right, those 2 guys were blocking the same guy, and then all the assignments, the way they'll be the ability for the guard to help Lane Johnson there. So what he's really talking about is wide zone blocking, play action, passing, more so than just pure drop back conventional offense. So that I think will be some of the passing offense, not like a big. It's not like there's going to be this big thing where Lane Johnson's getting guard help a lot this year. It was just in that specific instance.
So let me go back to this 12 personnel stuff. Is that where you think they will line up primarily the most? Like that's what we'll see the most of?
Well, I mean, everything you do is dictated by how well you're doing it and down and distance. For example, the 49ers play a lot of 21 personnel, which is, the fullback, the running back, tight end. They play a lot of 12 personnel, which is the two tight ends. But when George Kittle got hurt and left the game, the 49ers had to play a ton of 11 personnel against the Eagles, and they wound up moving the ball pretty well. The LA Rams last year, and in week 3, was it that they played the Eagles, or week 4? I think it
4.
was week 4.
This year it's 4.
Right. So last year, I think it was week 3, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Last year in week 3, they were still probably more of an 11 and a 12 personnel team. They were definitely more of an 11 and 12 personnel team. As the season went on and they gained an identity at offense, they played 13 personnel about 30% of the time because they realized their tight ends were more multi-dimensional than their third receiver, who's like Jordan Whittington, right? And yet they were still able to run some good field defense stressing plays because they have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua even out of 13 personnel, which is like nobody puts 3 tight ends on the field. They did it 30% of the time. The next highest team was like the Steelers at 12%. So that is something that worked for them, and they did it. So to go back to your question, will we see the Eagles play more 12 personnel? Theoretically, yeah, they should. I mean, that's the identity of the offense that Sean Mannion's bringing here. But what if the Eagles are, for whatever reason, have a lot of injuries on defense and they're down in games by 10 to 14 points early? Well, then they're going to have to throw the ball, and then they're going to want to be in 11 personnel. Or what if the defense is fine, but the running game looks like it did last year because the offensive line's not good and they're in 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 a lot like they were last year? Well, you're going to probably have 11 personnel on the field. Yeah. And then, Mike, we get into the sort of murkiness of, well, what happens when you have 2 tight ends on the field, but one of them is Stowers and he's flexed out because he's really just a wide receiver at that point. That's his skill set. That's really 12 personnel, but an 11 personnel look. It's like 11 personnel and a 12 personnel body.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I guess is, I don't know who wrote this, but they wrote, look for the Eagles to give you more under center. I think we think that's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which leads to timing, boot, and play action concepts out of 12 personnel. Yes. Do we think there's going to be a lot of bootleg play action concepts? Because that's not something they ran a whole heck of a lot of.
Well, I think it would make a lot of sense because we know that Jalen Hurts typically prefers not to have his back to the defense. So even in a bootleg, yeah, as you fake the handoff, you have to have your back to the defense, but then you're running to the opposite side of the play and you're facing the defense, and you have usually deep overs or crossing routes involved where guys are coming from your right to your left. Let's say if you roll out left or the other way, if you're rolling out the other way. So and it's just, it's a staple of the offense. It's especially when you have a mobile quarterback. It's a really effective play because it's essentially a misdirection where you get the defense flowing the opposite way of the play strength.
Yeah, one of the things too, you're talking about the 12 personnel. You have Goddard, who we know. Other than Goddard, I mean, Calcaterra, I guess, has been around. But would you say that the depth at wide receiver is better than your depth at tight end?
Probably more so, yeah. And weirdly, I wouldn't have said that in the last few years, but yeah,
right.
I mean,
they had
your third receiver is Marquise Brown. I mean, he's been 1,000-yard receiver in this league, so that's pretty good. Dontavian Wicks might be your third receiver behind Mekhi Lemon and Devontae Smith. He's had success in this league, whereas your number 2 tight end is either a blocker like Johnny Munt, who's not going to catch more than 10 passes in a year, or Eli Stowers, who's really a wide receiver anyway. So, yeah, I would say that that's a fair statement.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have – now, you just said Hollywood Brown. You think he is has a bigger role in the offense than Wicks does?
I don't know that. I mean, I think that if they're in 12 personnel and you have 2 receivers out there, it's probably going to be Devontae Smith, and either, depending on down and distance, it's either going to be Wicks or it's going to be Marquise Brown, unless they want Mekhi Lemon out there and feel like he's doing a good job of winning on the outside. I think maybe later in the year, but earlier you'll probably see Lemon mostly in the slot. And it just depends on how Brown's performing within the offense. What's happened to Darius Cooper? How's Wicks performing? Are they in the red zone? Because then you want to use taller guys, theoretically.
All right, Geoff Mosher, Football 4, looking at some of the Eagles OTA stuff today. One of the things, first question right on the shoot today, what's going on at backup quarterback? What is your read on them rotating guys? Because I think most people would think Tanner McKee was the guy. They trade for Dalton, and it was like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. What do you make of that whole situation? Because I know, look, it's the backup quarterback, but the backup quarterback in this town means something, right? And do you read anything into the fact that they're rotating?
I do. I just don't know what to make of it yet, and that's something that
I do read into it. I just don't know what I'm reading.
Right. Kaplan and DeCecco and I have kind of chatted about this and said this is something we have to kind of monitor and look into a little more, because before, when it was just a couple of open practices, it was easy to assume that if they were trading off, maybe we were just the practices that were open to the media happened to be on days that Dalton was the guy. But I think it's now back-to-back practices where Dalton's the guy, and then Nick Sirianni didn't commit, interestingly, to McKee as his number 2. So that definitely it bears some investigation now.
So they write that 12 personnel. Is there a grouping you're intrigued by?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of intrigued on how Stowers might be used as a second tight end, but really a second or a third wide receiver. Might we see some 1-by-3 formations where your X receiver, the number 1 to the quarterback's left, is Stowers? Because they used to use Zach Ertz that way. They've occasionally used Goddard that way, but the skill set that Stowers has, you could probably line him up on the outside, and with his athleticism, he could probably beat a few corners on an inbreaker or even a deep shot. So especially in the red zone.
He brought up many times today that Stowers is kind of new to that position. He was kind of talking about his blocking prowess. Yeah. So it'll be interesting, how they view him in what kind of role they want to utilize him in.
Yeah, and it'll probably be situational and slow to begin with. I mean, you have to be able to block in this offense if you're going to run 12 personnel. And we saw that out Grant Calcaterra. If you can't block, it's going to just foobar the entire operation. So, but he can catch, and I'm sure, we know that training camp for the most part is a passing camp, and he's still very early in his career, so it may not be right away. But I am curious to see how he develops throughout the year.
Do you think that the running backs will be a much bigger part of the pass game, or not necessarily?
You know what? I'm not even going to rubber stamp that, because I've seen it so many times. And me and Kaplan just joke about this on the podcast all the time. Every 1 year, they threw the ball to DeAndre Swift like 20 times in a week. And we're like, oh, yeah, this is the year that they're going to get the running back involved in the pass game. And it just has not happened. I think theoretically they would like to. I think it makes a lot of sense to do it, but and you probably will see it a lot in practice and in training camp. But when it's real in September, that's when I'll be proven. Somebody will prove to me that they will or won't do that.
Well, I agree with you on that one. I don't, because Barkley's not a guy you want to throw the ball to a whole heck of a lot. But is it, the year that they get that second running back a bigger role, right? Because Kaplan, we talked about this yesterday a little bit with you. Barkley, this could potentially be Barkley's last year here.
It could be. I think he actually is a guy I would like to see catch the ball more. He caught the ball great at Penn State. He has good hands. I know he's had some drops at times, but it's weird when he gets the ball in the passing game, it typically tended to be wheel routes that were down the sideline. I mean, he probably has more catches at 20 or plus yards than he has for 10 or fewer. I would love to see some quick dump off, some RB screens, real quick check downs or misdirections where he catches the ball in the flat, and give him some space. I think he can be a McCaffrey-like back if he gets the ball quickly from the line of scrimmage in the passing game.
All right, Geoff Mosher, Football at 4. The Eagles OTAs are done. The players are now talking to the media, so they are officially, that's it. They're done till July sometime, about a month from now. They shall be back for training camp, and, of course, we'll keep the football rolling. Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Mosher, we'll see you, bud.
All right, bud. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.